estate management. He was the technology head at hoteltravel.com and has also served in Make My Trip in his tech domain. Our next and final speaker is Mr. Sanjeev Mulchandani. He is the Senior Vice President at TV9 Group, where he heads the sales for TV9 News Network. Mr. Mulchandani has 18 plus years of sales expertise in media, FMCG, and telecom industries. A proud alumnus of IIM Bangalore, where he completed his executive management program, Mr. Sanjeev started his career with FMCG major Hindustan Lever, then moved on to Vodafone. He has also held various positions such as Z Entertainment's Zonal Sales Head, ITV Network's Vice President, and Network 18's AVP. Our moderator for today is Professor Ranjan Chaudhary. He is an associate professor in the Marketing Sciences Department at NITIE Mumbai. Dr. Chaudhary holds an MBA in marketing and a PhD in management sciences. He has over 20 years of industrial teaching and research expertise and has served as a faculty at IIT Kharagpur and IIT Delhi. Dr. Chaudhary is in the editorial board of Euromed Journal of Business, International Journal of Advances in Management, IEM, International Journal of Management and Technology in India. Now, I would like to invite Dean Students Affairs, Professor Hema Date, to enlighten us with her noble thoughts.
Thank you. Very good afternoon to all of you. Respected Director Sir, distinguished speakers, faculty members, and my dear students. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to Samvaad, a media conclave organized by Media Relations Cell of NITIE under the umbrella of Avartan. This is the flagship management festival of NITIE. Our institute, NITIE Mumbai, located in the heart of Mumbai, surrounded by 3 lakes and curtained from the hustles and bustle of city by lush greenery, is a beautiful campus that produces some of the best managers of the country every year. And it has been doing for more than 50 years. The continued endeavor of being a symbol of excellence has been the main reason for NITIE being ranked among the elite institutes of the country. As per latest NIRF ranking, we are 12th in India in the Management Institute category. It has been our legacy of hosting think tanks of various sectors to get their insights on the prominent issues from local as well as global perspectives. Samvaad is a media conclave of NITIE, where top leaders from the mass India and digital media industry in a panel discussions about the topics related to media, business, and economy. This is the 3rd year of Samvaad, and last 2 editions, topics related to economy and media in the post-COVID era were covered by the panelists. Today, I take immense pride in welcoming the most distinguished guests from the world of media who have joined us to share their noble thoughts with us. We are the 4th pillar of democracy and serves as the eyes, ears, and voice of the people. They bear a huge responsibility of updating the people about the events occurring around the globe and serve as a voice of the people whenever required. With organizations of this media conclave, it is a great opportunity for us to gain a better perspective of the changing landscape in the mass media. We at NITIE would benefit manifold by understanding how the media industry has managed to deal with a momentous shift in the delivery of the product. The insights shared by the panelists would be helpful for our students as they would face similar challenges after entering into the corporate world. They can learn about the tools used to analyze data and implement changes. Tools such as artificial intelligence, machine learning will guide them for a real-time decision making, which are going to make them a very good decision makers, and they will deal with the dynamics of the business. The intricacies of their technologies and human intelligence would provide us to prosper in the 21st century and make it India's century. So I urge my dear students to be interactive and seek answers to all your doubts so that you can develop yourself to become the leaders of tomorrow. I would like to thank all the dignitaries from media houses who took out the time from their busy schedule for this event. On this note, I hope we have a very insightful session and it will provide great opportunity for our students for learning. So once again, I'm thankful to all the panelists and I request the student coordinator to take it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I would now request the moderator, Professor Ranjan Chaudhary, to add a few words.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Hema Date, for such an enlightening address and introducing the theme of the Media Conclave. It is 2021 right now, and I'll take you back 1984. I'm sorry for taking you on a retrogressive path for such a long period of time, but I can't resist myself. And after you cross 45, you realize what you have left behind is truly magical, truly golden. So with your permission or without your permission, I'm taking you back to 1984. And it was West Bengal. I'm a Bong, so it was West Bengal. And I remember it was on a sultry October afternoon when we heard a call from our newspaper wala, the newspaper vendor who used to deliver newspapers. He was missing for almost a month. The reason behind, let me tell you, there are two things which are integral part of any Bengalis life. One is the perfumed antiseptic cream Borolin, and the other was an Anand copy of the Anand Bazar Patrika, which is a local Bengali vernacular. And for 1 month, the entire state of West Bengal was missing their Anand Bazar Patrika. You know, there was some infighting that happened between the Congress government and the CPIM government, raising allegations and counter allegations that Anand Bazar has been defaming CPIM for some time, and then the editor-in-chief Abhik Sarkar and Arup Sarkar were heckled and harassed. The newspaper office was burnt, and all that led to the production being stopped. The newspaper was completely out of circulation. And then after a long wait of 1 month, suddenly we realized that today evening the newspaper would be usually newspapers comes morning, but that day newspaper came in the late afternoon. Around 4:30 the newspaper was delivered. And let me tell you, the celebration were in the air. If you had been to parts of Kolkata, Bagh Bazar, Shubha Bazar, or the Baliganj area, you could see the celebrations all around, people with their copy of the Anand Bazar Patrika. It was kind of sort of, as if getting back your life. And in the small engineering college campus that I grew up, I think there was a undeclared resolution that nobody would have cooking that day. That was it was decided that there will be a picnic in the evening and we would all have food outside. Somebody else would cook. So it was celebration. So the first time, I think as a kid, I learned that media is extremely powerful and media appeals to the masses. So I don't know if the mass media word is still a cliche, but media is so beautiful, I think, at the end of the day, that it actually strikes the chord amongst across sections, across socioeconomic classes in the society. So grateful to distinguished panelists who have taken time out of their busy schedule and joined us. We have a theme, and I'm sure that you all got a copy of the theme. But before I come to the theme, I'll talk about again the pandemic. So this pandemic has been accelerating kind of structural challenges and trends that has long faced the media and entertainment industry in India, and happily, I think that is one of the reasons when I'm joining you today for the last 6 months, 8 months. Also on the personal front, I have been researching on some of the aspects of the media and entertainment industry and looking at, again, the advantages and the perils of social media, how people, particularly the young people, I'm more concerned about the young people, how they are discovering news content across the world, in India, elsewhere in the globe. And recently, for the last few days, a lot of hue and cry fiasco regarding Facebook. Earlier, it was Twitter for how they handled or mishandled news and information. And that became a kind of very crucial tool for the media and entertainment industry, for the journalists. and it has been spreading very quickly, very rapidly to the newsroom. And that is how today the news stories are broken. I was reading some articles where time and again it is referred that how the today's industrialists, particularly people in the stature like Anand Mahindra, and they are creating ripples across industries with their wisdom inspired as well as humorous quick quotes on what is happening in politics, in business, across this domain. And that contributes to the furthering on and speeding up of the news cycle. And today's news correspondents, the columnists, they are also gaining new authority, new influence through their expert use of print media, digital media, as well as, of course, social media. So social media and newspapers put together, they have helped newspapers and broadcasters to gain traction around the world, especially in the advanced economies, but also I think in emerging economies like India, China, Russia, Brazil. And the caveat, I think, for the entire discussion for us is that news organizations are becoming increasingly worried about the potentially disruptive effect on social media on their business models. And that is where I think the whole discussion would probably pivot today. And they're struggling to square the circle between using these new powerful open networks to drive traffic and engagement while they're trying to maximize commercial revenues on their own website. Now we another 2 months and we would be in 2022. And today, as we tiptoe into 2022, we see telecommunications, media, entertainment industry leaders. They are considering what are the strategic imperatives, what are the opportunities to recover from the COVID-19 crisis, and then how to position themselves to thrive in the future. So, I think there is a lot of store for the audience today who are today online listening to this media conclave. And we have companies like HT, Hindu, Times of India, TV9, who are transforming themselves in the print and media and are going to define what is going to lie for us in the future, both in the physical space as well as in the digital space. So our topic for this media conclave is aptly put by the Media and Relationship Cell at NITIE on key trends in the mainstream media post the advent of social media. So we are looking for coverage on wide range of topics like the trust issue, like the security and privacy issue, the online trolling of the celebrities and the sports person and the industrialists, the independent journalism, the government support and initiatives or the government dissupport, everything, whatever you put together. So with our esteemed panelists coming from digital and marketing domain of the media houses, I think the floor is about to be set on fire. So without much ado, I would like to invite Mr. Shubham Srivastava ji. Shubham ji, if you would like to enlighten us, and if there is something that you would like to share on the presentation deck, I think our volunteers can grant immediate access. So we look forward to it from you, sir. Your perspectives.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ranjan ji, and thanks for having me first of all, and a big hello to your team and the eminent folks that you're able to
welcome,
pull in.
Sir. Welcome.
And a great start to your to a multi-decade-old context that you have set across on the specifics about how much influential print media has been in the lives of a common man in India and to a very specific part of India. So yeah, I think very relevant topic, I would say. While I'll my larger, broader aspect on a higher order thing largely is saying that in today's advent, with the penetration of internet and with technology being the sole provider of information, what has happened, and again it's a broader thought, what has happened is that news or information spread and reach has expanded in almost a real-time way, and it is spread across in multiple channels, multiple ways, forms, etc. Right? So largely with the advent of internet, as the information became accessible, it has also given means and mechanisms of one, individual users to get an access to all of that information in various shapes and forms. Second, help companies connect with the end users for their set of relevant products and likewise. So I think that is the broader perspective that has happened in specifically in Indian landscape. It is kind of the internet penetration in India that has happened in last 5 odd years or even a decade that way has been we haven't really seen that, right? It's largely about just jumping various intermediate states and kind of taking that to that level. And with that happening, with all these information and internet spread happening, followed with all the informations coming through those digital media, I think all of these the context that way is very relevant, because now we have access to all kind of information in almost real time in various shapes and form, and largely every part of the world that way is connected. So that's a broader aspect to how news and information has now become accessible for everyone. And with that, of course, now that it is accessible for companies, how do they monetize that? For end users, how do they gauge maximum information and use that information in their day-to-day life? So all of that, I think, is where the in my opinion, that is the some metric lot of intricacies to solve with respect to the real news, with respect to validity of that news, and likewise. So yeah, but I think in my opinion, at a broader level, I think all of that is going to help the end user to gauge a lot more information, which can help build or improve a day-to-day life broadly. And of course, with all of that happening and impacting an individual citizen of a country, it essentially means that a lot of political, socio, and economic reforms and the larger aspects around that will also start emerging. So I think in my opinion, that is what has happened, and largely the growth from here on internet and the widespread penetration of internet will lead these initiatives, specifically concerning to the domains that we work in, specifically news and information. That way, I think exciting times for folks who are behind the corporates who are building and ensuring the news is getting reach. And while it is our exciting times, it's equally challenging to ensure that you are always up to speed, both in terms of the digital products and the quality of products and the kind of reach you will have with your set of users. So yeah, I think I'll add to the context to what you said, and would look forward to hearing from the rest of the panel as well.
Thank you so much, Shubham, for setting the tone for the conclave. And moving forward, I think the mainstream media and the distribution of news in the age of social discovery is gaining currency. And we are also struggling to understand how social media are changing the production, distribution, and discovery of news, and further disrupting the business models of the mainstream media companies. But before that, I think let us move forward to our next panelist, Sanjeev Mulchandani ji. Sanjeev ji, if you can share your perspective on the theme of the conclave.
Thank you, Ranjan ji. Taking forward, actually, you took us back to 1984. I'm still stuck there, and I'm trying to find my way out. But finding a context to what you said and the current topic or the point of discussion what we have, the advent of social media, how it is impacting the mainstream media. There are 2-3 things, but even before we get on to that, I would really want to make a very quick introduction about what we really do, so that probably the perspective would differ from each one of us. I'm just sharing very quick PPT around, and I'll tell you what exactly I have in my mind. Just 1 second. Is this visible?
Yes, visible.
So
You can put it
quickly,
in the hourglass mode so that you can see the full screen.
yeah, one second. This is good now, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So guys, quick introduction. I take care of sales for TV9. Now we are a network of 6 channels, and predominantly it's always been a south-based organization which has expanded rapidly in last 3 years. I'm sure most of people present here, we would have touched them in some way or other, be it the regional channel or a national offering or digital. But this is what we are, and we last 2 years has been a while you mentioned about pandemic and the challenges and all, but trust me, those challenges have been kind of opportunities for a lot of guys, especially in news, and I'm sure people around in news would agree here. And this phenomenal growth what we saw in news television, because we have captive audience right throughout the pandemic, people were not moving out. There were supply chain issues in terms of content for other entertainment sector and all. So news was the only thing which people were referring to from an catching up what is happening around. So this is predominantly coming from that space. Then we coming to the context what you mentioned. So back in 1984, or maybe in that entire decade, in our old good days of schools and all, we had this concept of writing an essay on boons and curses of science and things like that. I mean, just picking up a leaf from there, exactly, because I told you you left us in 80s, so I was forced to go back there and pick up something from there. So immediately it came to my mind, yes, but there was always an essay. And similarly, if you look at, there are one point which you mentioned that social media has created a lot of challenge. Uh, Apart from this slide, what you're seeing on the screen right now, I think rest all is positive. I mean, it is more complementing to the entire mainstream media and the news business. But one challenge which is hurting us, and rather questioning the credibility of linear media also, is the fake news on the social media. So if you look at, I have put across 3-4 slides. I mean 3-4 pictures. If you look at, and the first one, I would really want you guys to hear this story. It's very interesting. I've tried to cover the name of the channel which aired this concept of helicopter money. So one of the channels down south, they created this through graphics that Modi ji aayenge aur helicopter se paisa feke jayenge. There is an helicopter money which is on the way. Now they ridiculed the economic concept of helicopter money. They literally translated helicopter money as if really there would be some money which would be coming from the sky, and during pandemic it will be taking care of the cash issues due to some unemployment and lack of earning possibilities. So as an responsible media house, we did not ever mention the name of the channel. We just picked up that story, and I've just picked a glimpse of it because it's a good 20-minute story, so I couldn't put the entire link. So this was done in the Karnataka market, where we picked up and we mentioned this is a fake, and then we dig bit into the concept of what is helicopter money. I'm sure most of us would be aware, but just for sake of this thing, that it's more of a liquidity which will be easing of finance by printing some more currency and making sure there is demand which is stipulated, and also taking care of the basic economics. But this entire concept was ridiculous. See, people don't understand, and as a news channel, it's our job to make sure that so we did that bit, and this is one such fake story. I mean, that's coming to the boon and the curses of social media. Only curse with respect to social media is the fake news scenario. I mean, it one of I think Shubham mentioned, it travels very fast. and it's like a wildfire. Something happens and it's on social media. Everybody start interpreting it in their own way, and the university of WhatsApp and Facebook all are into the action, and people actually panic. So this is one such example. Second was, I picked up few stories from a digital platform, TV9 Bharatvarsh, which is more of a national offering. Then we have TV9 Marathi. We picked up all these things, and we do this fact check segment on our most of the channels. As in, when we see something getting viral and which is not being reported by us, but we do get calls from viewers, what is this? And the credibility of TV9 is such that when they see something, they actually come back to the channel and see if this is the real news or it's more of a fake. So we then try to create a segment around it. So only thing what we are facing challenge with respect to social media, and probably the only negative thing which I want to talk about in this entire social media, advent of social media and impact of mainstream, is only fake news. Rest all, if you see, I mean, I have many such examples where we will be talking during the course of discussion, where we'll see how social media is actually helping more engagement with the viewers and all. You really know what is working and not. I mean, there are those agencies which do the ratings and all, which tells you how as a channel you're doing, which is BARC basically. But that happens once in a week or maybe more than that. But now with the help of social media, you really know what is happening. Are you doing the right thing? Or if you're doing wrong thing, of course, you will get trolled and how. So something which is really working is from the content perspective. But yeah, this remains the biggest challenge in terms of, uh, I would say how social media is negatively impacting at least news, if not entertainment as a second. I think, yeah, that's it from me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sanjeev ji, for a very quick insight. And also thank you so much for those anecdotes. Particularly, I think the helicopter money is something that I'll remember throughout my life. I think
Yeah.
this is something extraordinary. Thank you so much for bringing that into the discussion. Okay, so I think moving forward, we're talking about and rightly as Mr. Mulchandani talked about social media. I think as a term, there has only been around for a few years. I'm not sure when did it really catch up. Maybe 2012, 2013, it became little aggressive. But the seeds of today's dramatic changes to news production and distribution, I think they were sown right at the start of this internet revolution. And going forward, I again go back to the mainstream media, which is again the focus for our today's conclave. So, little curious to understand how young people consume news and what are the implications for mainstream media. Our today's audience is primarily from the cream de la cream institutions across the country, across the world. So, trying to understand, because mainstream media is a solution, as I mentioned in the opening remarks. Mainstream media today is also considered to be again a very closely competing rival for social media. And fewer young people today, as I see, they are using traditional sources of news like television, radio, print media, and they're getting more of their news feeds from social media and other aggregators. So these trends broadly have underlined the challenge for mainstream media in attracting the attention of younger audiences, in building the brand loyalty and news habits that ultimately will guarantee their future. So in short, in summary, these news organizations today across the world and also in our country are struggling to remain relevant to a generation that has grown up with the distractions and diversions of digital media, which also includes social media. So against this background, we are trying to understand broadly two key questions, and this remains open before other panelists as well, that how do young people consume news, and how can publishers like HT, TOI, or Indian Express, how they can attract young readers, listeners, and viewers. And today we are fortunate, we have amongst us again a distinguished panelist, Mr. Suresh Vijayaraghavan, who again comes from a well-known, reputed leading publishing house. So I would like to invite Mr. Vijayaraghavan to share his perspective on the implications of mainstream media, particularly for the masses, particularly for the younger crowd, younger population, and what are the consequences of social media proliferation in the current context? Mr. Vijayaraghavan.
Thank you, Mr. Ranjan, and greetings to all the distinguished professors and greetings to my fellow panelists. And I would first start with the disclaimer that I am more a technical person in the media industry. I would start. Okay. I'll just share my screen and you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see your screen, Mr. Vijayaraghavan.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anyway, see, I'm coming from the Hindu group, and as you can see that we are a 142-year journey that we have, and in fact, we turned 143 last month. We have 7 unique publications and over 20 digital products, and media is from the print media industry. So most of the opinions or things that I specify or talk will be more confined with what is happening within the print media, because my exposure on the television or other media is very limited. So that's the disclaimer that I would want to make first. I think before we even go into what challenges the media industry faces, we need to understand what this digital disruption is all about. That is actually causing all this for us. I think many of you would remember the picture of this, the films, which used to be the only way that we capture photographs in the 1980s and 90s. I guess the young generation that is there now, they may not even seen these films now. See, basically what has happened. What has happened? Why this the film actually disappeared? So many people think that of research to understand what has actually happened is it is not just the advent of digital camera that has actually the evolution of a digital ecosystem, wherein along with the digital camera, we had the social media like Facebook coming up, which allowed someone to photograph and share it immediately and do whatever they want with that in an instant. So that change this.
Suresh, you are breaking in between. Maybe you like to
capture a moment in their life.
Suresh, is there any problem in the network?
And share it with others.
Maybe other panelists, are you able to hear him? Sanjeev ji, Shubham ji?
We can hear Suresh ji. I think you should put your camera off, maybe. That will help you release the bandwidth.
Yeah. That's what I'll do. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I was switched off.
This is better. This is better. Yeah, I can hear you now.
I'll share again.
Yes, we can hear.
Sorry about that. Our peak production time has started and I am actually in the office now. Yeah, I'm clear now, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
you're audible.
So basically, the fundamental desire to capture a moment in our life and share it with others has not changed. But how our grandparents did it, how our parents did it, and how our children will do it is completely different. And this radical shift is because of the digital ecosystem that has come in. And the same effect is what we are seeing in the way news is being consumed today. So 20 years back, probably we before even television became very famous, newspapers were the only source of information for people. And we had the Doordarshan that came up where it used to be only for a specific period of time in the evening and sometimes in the morning. But today we have wide all over 7 and information coming up. So how do media industries actually has to thrive in this competitive environment itself? And another thing that we also have to look at it is, if you remember that this BlackBerry was a very coveted device once upon a time, and within a span of couple of years, its market share fell from 43% to 4% in the US, and in effect, it will be from the market now. And Apple actually came up with, but the success of Apple was because they actually built the ecosystem around the phone itself. They introduced the platform, and the platform gave a rich mobile experience for the users, and that actually resulted in the death of the BlackBerry. The BlackBerry did not understand this disruption that is happening in front of them, or they did not want to recognize that. And Apple understood that part, and that was actually part of this success. So basically, today, an organization that has the best digital ecosystem wins, and we should actually recognize what is this ecosystem. This ecosystem actually interfaces us with our customers, it interfaces us with the respective channels, technology, culture, and also there is no
Suresh, we are missing you. I think we're getting disconnected.
Analytics, and that is in just okay. Am I audible? I'm sorry.
You're audible, but I think the voice is breaking quite frequently.
Suresh, it would be really nice to see your earlier slide. It was quite nicely done, if possible.
Okay. Okay. I'm back to my earlier slide. Okay. Can I proceed further?
Yes, please. You can proceed.
Yeah. So this as a print media, what is that we saw? We actually saw that going forward, for us, content is the king. So like me actually trying to adopt itself and take a digital first approach going forward. And we also have to look at the depth and the variety of content that we cover and the content formats. Because why the content format is important, because today the user has the channel they can see you on a website, they can come and use on a mobile app, they can actually even in the future we can look at sending news as snippets on the wearables. We should be able to adopt any content format that is there. So we should be able to reach the audience, and we also be able to analyze for politics. Somebody is more interested in sport, we should be able to showcase the most sport news. Or somebody is more interested in politics, we should be able to provide them with more information on politics. So these are the things that the media industry is actually looking at and trying to use technology to ensure that we are able to engage the user and able to provide a very nice user experience while their journey happens on our particular website or product, as we call it. So this is what that is important, and I feel the industry itself is going through this evolution. And as I said earlier, I'm speaking more from the print industry because that is the one that is majorly impacted by this digital disruption. And when it comes to dissemination or providing news, it's important that we talk about whether it's mobile first or print first or online first. Actually, we discovered that it is actually story first. We actually want to take a content for the end user. End user wants to understand what is the trend that is happening now. So story first becomes the criteria now. And then we have to use integrated publishing platforms. That's what the whole digital ecosystem that I spoke about, which enables us to take this content to the end user on his device of choice through the channel that he wishes to see this. And of course, our newsrooms have also transitioned from being specifically sitting in one place. Now we have virtual newsrooms, and the technology is actually enabling us to work virtually from anywhere. And the COVID pandemic has only accelerated the virtual adopting of this virtual technology. So in a sense, if I'll just stop sharing this. So in a sense, what is that we are discovering is that we need to be cognizant of the fact that digital disruption is there in front of us. The advent of the social media, what the social media has actually done, if you really see. Earlier, if an article is published in a newspaper and somebody wants to have a comment about this, we have tried it to letters to editor, right? And we have thousands of letters come in and might be we publish 10 or 15 of that. But the social media has made everybody a journalist, right? I can create on my Facebook, I'm a journalist. I can write what I think I wanted to, and of course, it is going to be only to a small set of audience who is linked with me. But it has given me the liberty that everybody can become a journalist by themselves, and they can voice their opinions. And social media has also created the ability to collaborate, right? Some news articles comes either in the mainstream TV media or comes in a news. Immediately, there's discussion that can happen across that, which was not there earlier, right? Earlier, we did not have that capability. That capability is there. Whatever we say gets commented immediately, gets ridiculed immediately, and people start discussion about that in separate groups. These are the things, reality to which we are awakening ourselves and trying to see how we are able to address this. Rather than trying to avoid, we have to embrace that and then make that as part of our mainstream strategy as we go forward. That's in a sense, I think we should be looking at when it comes to what the social media can actually do this from a positive standpoint. Back to you, Mr. Ranjan.
Thank you, Suresh, once again for your presentation insights. So before moving over to Smriti, I think one thing that is absolutely sure, and we can tell with confidence, that big media has not lost its monopoly in terms of the news that it generates and it distributes. Now that it is possible to publish in real time to worldwide audience, I think the big media, the print media, the mainstream media, which also includes a new breed of journalists who are very well versed in social media journalism, they are taking the news in their own hands, just as Mr. Suresh ji was presenting his perspective. I think there's a news feed that instantly came to on my system that there is a Kannada film artist who recently just died of an heart attack. So I think this came again from a very popular news channel, and it's not a social media channel. So I think to cut the long story short, the citizen journalism, the social media, they haven't replaced the professional journalism yet, but it has certainly become harder to define what a journalist and what a journalism truly is, what media, what popular mainstream media is going to be for the future. So the line between the professional and the personal has blurred amid an overwhelming tide of interlinked news sources and outputs. So Smriti, coming back to our passionate discussion on the theme of the conclave, we're talking about younger audience. So let me move from the younger audience to a little different set of audiences, people like us who are in their 40s, late 40s and 50s, but they are not actually very different from the younger groups in terms of what they do and what they consume, but also in terms of the core attitudes, in terms of what they want from items like news, for example, particularly in cities like Bombay, Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore, Hyderabad. So these people are primarily driven by the progress and enjoyment in their lives, and this translates into what they look for also in their news. They still need and want news to connect to their world, to their own world, and fulfill an array of different social and personal needs, but they don't necessarily see the traditional media as the best or only the way to do that. So news media is now competing for attention with myriad other distractions, and there is very high level of background or indirect exposure to news through social media, through online conversations, through documentaries, through television shows, and they don't need to seek it out. News comes to them. It's not that I'm doing. So as soon as I open my mailbox, there are feeds and there are banner ads and there are pops that keeps on coming. So much of this excitement and the gravitas of this set of people, younger old people or older young people, is on the periphery of the news space, infotainment, lifestyle, cultural, grassroots, bloggers, vloggers. So traditional news brands see this as what you should know and what is useful and what is interesting to you and what is fun to know. So with this, I open the discussion to Smriti madam to let us know what is your perspective, madam, on the whole story, particularly on the broadcasting.
Thank you, Ranjan. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here. So I think, very quickly, television news is going through a very, very interesting time. It's also had an interesting year last year when, with the advent of the lockdown and the pandemic, where globally, sort of news consumption sort of really burst at its seams. I mean, I think Sanjeev also mentioned that, there was a supply, problem on live sports as well as on entertainment. So everyone was turning to news. Obviously, also there was a requirement. We were going through an unprecedented time, where everyone wanted to know what was really happening, what was the COVID pandemic all about. And besides that, there was also then a huge amount of lack of clarity on everything economic. Now, I work with the CNBC brand of platforms, between television and digital, and very uniquely poised because we've got English business news, we've got Hindi as well as Gujarati business news, and we also have CNBC-TV18.com, which is digital. So, I have the good fortune of actually having an overview on news and how this media is evolving in various languages, because the trajectory of how, and I'm going to speak to you more from the business when I say how the business of news is changing because of digital and because of social, and not really so much from the journalism point of view, because I'm not that expert. I'm not a journalist. I am the business head of business news. But how the business of running news is changing, because English news is changing faster than Hindi news is changing. Hindi news is changing differently from how news in languages is changing, because the consumer in all these three cohorts is at a different stage of evolution of consumption, both of television as well as digital platforms, access to smartphones, data consumption, where they are based, are they metrocentric, are they not in a metro, etc. So for platforms like CNBC TV 18, the headroom, the ceiling on television is probably closer than it is for Hindi news, and CNBC Awaaz is really not at that ceiling right now. Of course, we've been lucky. The markets have been, booming for the last year and a half, so we've seen some momentum in our business. But yes, for CNBC TV 8 and brands like CNBC, it is extremely important to embrace digital really fast, not work as a platform which is different. See, consumers, I think Suresh had this, saying that you have to chase the story, you don't have to chase the platform. So the consumer is today, opting into stories. They are not really opting into platforms. So whether it is CNBC TV 18 on mobile, on social, or on television, it is one platform, and that's the experience that we are trying to create over here. There has to be no difference between our brand, its voice and its offering on television and on social. Of course, we are also very cognizant of the fact that if we have to remain relevant for the next 20 years, then we have to get younger. We need to embrace social. We need to embrace digital, because that's where the younger cohort is really opting in. We've not lost the younger audience. We've just not got the younger audience on television. So they are the same, the younger people are following us, are engaging with us, but they are on social, they are on digital with us. I think what is also changing in a very big way is that the way our P&Ls are organized at television, how at television companies, how we are staffing our newsroom, how we are staffing our business teams, how how we are making money, how revenue is being sort of accounted for. That is also going through a major transition in every traditional media company. Today there are younger people in the newsroom. We are looking at more people who understand the nuances of social media platforms, so that they can quickly pivot every story as relevant on Instagram differently, relevant on Facebook or Meta, if we are calling it that now. So on Facebook differently, LinkedIn differently, the voice of every platform, the audience of every platform. So the way we are staffing ourselves, our manpower requirements are changing. In the newsroom, we are moving from lugging those bulky cameras to every part of town to actually moving to mobile journalism now. So the cost semantics, the way we are working out on all our investments, that is changing in a very big way. And this is all, traditional media is going through that transformation in a very big way, thanks to digital and social media. So the idea is to embrace this change, and there are upsides, there are challenges, but I think the one acceptance is that these two worlds cannot be divergent anymore. They have to converge. I think traditional media, most of our companies and most of the companies that all of us represent here on the call, we are still working in structures which are differently television and differently digital. I think over the next 2-3 years, traditional media companies will see a convergence in organizational structures as well, where we will converge as unified organizations and not a TV company separately and a digital company separately. I'm sure Sanjeev's company is going to go through that transformation. I'm sure Suresh's company is going to go through that. Mine certainly is. That way, I think that is, those are really the trends. I'm giving you an inside out view, as to how organizations are bracing for the change that the kind of news on social aligned to this change, because there is no way of really being, especially amongst all of these young people on the call. I think most of them are going to be cord cutters. Most of them are probably not going to have a Tata Sky connection in their homes. So it is important that we embrace this change and structure our organizations, our cost structures, our investments, our manpower, our hiring, all of that to complement this change which news consumption is going through. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Smriti. I wish I could have you as a guest speaker in our class. And wonderful. I think you hinted at the pay-as-you-go model. So a couple of interesting, I think, insights that I could gather from your address to the audience is the experience of news should feel as easy and as accessible, whether it is from TV9 or whether it is from any such network or HT or your own channel, CNBC, as accessible as FB, as accessible as Netflix. This is partly about how the content is going to get presented and how it should surface. And truly, you mentioned that no, it's not going to be a physical company and a digital company, but it's all going to be a kind of unified as a whole. So, and the other very interesting thing is that you talked about today's consumers are not looking at platforms; they're looking at stories. And news brand need to tell stories in ways that feed the expectations of the younger cohort and the moments when they're open to news. So this means that you are trying to create formats that are native to mobile and social platforms, and actually put that you don't plug anymore those bulky cameras anymore. So it is more of mobile journalism and mobile media coverage. And this native to being mobile and social platforms, as well as incorporating these ideas onto your own channels and your own websites. The third thing that I could gather from your insight is the way the news media covers stories may need to change, including addressing issues such as negativity. And this is particularly true given the COVID-19 pandemic: negativity, stereotypes, diversity, and how news brands and channels they're presenting both themselves and their content on the third-party platforms. So to put all this together, Smriti, achieving this definitely will require a relentless focus on the needs of not only the older audience, but also the younger audience. I put more trust on the younger audience, but it also requires, I think, a deep understanding of the motivations that underpin behavior. And I hope this conclave and beyond that, that will contribute to this process which you have just flagged today.
Yeah.
So yes, there are a good number of insights, and we definitely would like to take this forward. But because of paucity of time, maybe we can come with the panelists' permission, we can come to the Q&A session. So again, maybe with Smriti's acceptance, let me start with our channel, television, as a primary source of entertainment and information. Now, since people are consuming more media across various platforms, mediums, screens, and different distribution pipes, so this is going to be a very big emerging trend, I think. So what do you think, Smriti, as the future of television as a media in our country?
I think, Ranjan, honestly, television is, I mean, and I've heard this very, very often, that linear TV is dying. I think television has a huge room to grow as yet. I think in the last year also, we saw about a 9% growth in just penetration of television as well. So so just pure play, sort of satellite television, cable television, that there is still massive headroom to grow. Now, do we grow as like cable and DTH homes, or do we grow as as channels with access on platforms such as Jio TV or Vodafone Play, etc. That might be different, and that might evolve over the next few years. But I think television, again, like when I started my conversation with you all, I told you that, and it might be different for English platforms, and it might be different for Hindi and language platforms. But, everything which is either which is serving HSM markets or is serving regional markets, there is still massive headroom to grow that audience cohort, as well as the business part of it, the revenue part of it. There is massive headroom to grow in both of these spaces. English is going to go, sort of need to transition into digital first offerings probably sooner rather than later. However, that also, I always say this, that my hypothesis is that it will last my working life for sure.
Absolutely, Smriti. Again, a little more, I think, a focused question for you, Smriti, is when you look at the rising social media and the kind of, again, I'm just talking in terms of the business model, how this business model from the mainstream media is going to get affected when you try and when you combat, again, the growth of the social media.
So the business model is definitely evolving, Ranjan, and there are two parts to this. The one is the selling part of it, one is the buying part of it, right? Now, as sellers, I think we are probably more ready to start selling unified offerings, but I think the market is a little far away from buying us as unified offerings. So if you are, I'm sure you're all well versed with the, sort of the buying mechanism, how media, the agency landscape is organized. There are different, sort of agencies for buying traditional media like print, like television, like radio, and then there are different digital agencies. Again, at client ends, the teams are diversified into sort of the other media teams and digital teams, etc. Now, the business model will definitely change. I think most of us, especially in news, will see the emergence of, and if we don't already have them, we'll see the emergence of social media teams. We'll see social media monetization teams, sort of emerge in each one of our businesses. At some point, like I was saying, that the digital and television teams will converge. And this is not just from the newsroom side of it, the editorial side of it, but even on the business side. For example, I lead both the television as well as the digital part of the business that I work with. So I think business models will change, and because those business models will change, that will reflect in all cost structures. That they will reflect on the kind of hiring that we do on the content side of the business, and it will also reflect in the hiring and the staffing that we do in the business side of the business, whether it is marketing teams, whether it is revenue teams, all technology teams, product teams. So I think along the line, everything will become a lot more integrated. The newsrooms will get integrated as digital and television newsrooms as well. So I think the business model is going through a massive amount of change in that sense. And I think eventually, especially for English news platforms, there will be times when we will go into where we will start exploring streaming platforms. We'll have to start exploring monetization for each one of these kind of platforms, etc. So these are highly transformative times for news platforms.
Absolutely. So I think in summary, so there's going to be a major structural change as you foresee in the media and entertainment industry, considering where are you in the last decade and where are you going to be 2022 and onwards, right? Absolutely. Thank you so much, Smriti. I'll get back to you soon. Let me come back to Suresh ji. So Suresh ji, I think you talked about the publishing industry, though not technically. You had a disclaimer that you are a purely technical guy, but I could not resist once again asking you again the publisher's perspective. So I think the whole industry is going through an inflection point right now. So from print specific to online communication, I think if I consider that journey, so where do you place Hindustan Times, other Times, Hindu Group, and what kind of strategies do you think would be possible or are appropriate in growing your business in today's changing landscape? Over to you, Suresh ji.
Yes, I'm still behind the scenes. I'm still keeping my video off to make sure that my audio is clear to everybody. See, basically the way we see is actually Hindu has a trusted brand. We reach people through a print medium, and we are now going to reach them through an online medium. So basically, it's a channel through which we reach the subscribers is changing. But otherwise, with the way we look at it, like people come to us because they want to see what Hindu is telling about a specific event or a specific opinion, right? So that's still there. We stand on that the brand value that we have. And in terms of this digital transformation itself, right, we had the edge that we were the one to go behind the paywall for online subscription 5-6 years back. Our Hindu e-paper was already behind a paywall 5 years back. And that sort of gave us a lead in terms of understanding that how subscribers change from a completely free online news content to something that they will have to pay for seeing the news, right? So that's when there are so many various online news channels that are available where I don't need to pay. Why would somebody come in and pay for a specific news item to see? That's where I said the brand. We reached them earlier using a print media. Now we are reaching them through an online media. They are willing to subscribe to us to hear from us what we are trying to tell. But this transformation, though it started earlier, the COVID actually enhanced this transformation, and we started doing this much faster than we were doing earlier. And it's a transformation that has to happen across people, process, and technology within the organization. It's not just the technology changes and everything becomes. That's the reason I said that story first approach. Digital storytelling is a completely different ball game, and journalists are getting trained or getting used to this new format of talking or informing what they want to convey. Right? Early in print, probably I can put one photograph or two photographs against a story, but I can have a gallery of photographs on the online. I can add a video and make it much more informative. Right? So this new way of digital storytelling is what people are, both the journalists are getting used to, and the subscribers also getting used to this. As I said in my presentation, right, we have to face this digital disruption today and prepare ourselves to reach the end subscriber in his channel of choice. So what we face, as I said, one is the cultural change that both the journalists, the business teams has to undergo in order to ensure that now we are not just a print only company, that we are actually a print and online company. Or slowly we are moving towards online first company, where things are posted on online first and it goes on to print at a later point in time. That's a cultural shift. So the challenge, if you ask me, the challenge is getting this cultural shift happening within the organization. So if you look at on a traditional print media, what happens is news reporting happens over the day, but importance of that is only happening towards the end. That means the sub-editor who is responsible for the edition that is supposed to be going at 10 o'clock in the evening, he will start looking at what is important only around 5 o'clock, right? Because whatever is happening since morning, anyway, we are going to only start our printing at 10 o'clock in the night. Whereas the same thing when we take it on an online, something that happened at 10 o'clock, we want it to be there at 10:01 on our online website. That means the whole workflow is changing, and the way that we are going to gear ourselves to provide 24/7 content online, at the same time look at those trending stories and prepare a print edition of that goes towards the end of the day. So this is a change in culture, this is a change in workflow. Of course, this has also called for a big change in the technology that we have to put in place to integrate all these things together. So as I said again, challenges across people, process, and technology. When I say people, it's more a cultural challenge.
Absolutely fantastic. Smriti, would you mind if I again put you in that hot seat once again, back in that hot seat? So now just if you just change sides and move over from the digital entertainment and media industry to print media industry. So what is your take on that? How is print media going to change with the increase in digital media news sources? What is your perspective on that?
I think, Ranjan, I think Suresh has already sort of explained it really well, that, sort of people, processes, tech, all of these three things will probably have to converge I haven't worked in print for a very long time, so I don't think I would be, sort of expert on this, but I think, and there are so many different things like, the paywalls. I think print has the advantage of having extremely iconic brands, right? Whether the Hindu, whether the Times of India, it has HT. It has the advantage of these very, very economic, very, very legendary brands, really, which have sort of been around for generations. You spoke about the Anand Bazar Patrika. They've been around for generations. We've grown up with them. The next generation is also growing up with them. So the propensity to embrace them, if they are able to pivot into the newer forms of offering their stories, their content, the propensity to embrace them will remain, right? I think the paywall will become extremely important. I think paying for content will only go up. The ability for people, the need for people to pay for content, and that's where it will really play out. You will have to be a deep platform with relevant and credible news, and also a wide array of offering to be able to demand content behind a paywall. And I think the second thing, the other thing about content and paywall will be that there will be very relevant niche segments which will, the people will start paying for technology, or deep tech and enterprise technology news only. People will pay for for investment and financial news as well. People will pay for general news separately. People will pay for sports news separately. So it's also important to understand that what are the communities that you will want to develop in your audience cohorts, and then go after them, develop relevant offerings, and then be able to finally monetize them in the form of subscription revenue, not just advertising revenue. I think there will be a convergence of these two revenue streams as well as we go along.
Super. This is wonderful. This is just wonderful. Moving back to Shubham ji. Shubham ji, I think there's a lot of queries coming from the student bodies and on the online platforms regarding data analytics. So if looking at your background and the credentials that you have with the media and entertainment industry, with Live Mint and HT, so if you can highlight the kind of data analytics tool that are being used by your company like HT to grow better, to connect. We've been talking about connectivity, to grow better, to connect better to the target customers, particularly the young cohort on the social media platforms. So I don't know if that comes to you as rider, but we are trying to talk about the media and entertainment industry, mainstream media industry. We're trying to connect them on social media platforms so that they can revert back to the mainstream media. So what kind of data analytic tools are being used currently for this?
Correct. So look, I mean, again, at the broader level, while I'll touch briefly on the specifics of what exactly do we use. But I think at the broader level, if you look at from a problem statement per se, largely there are a set of users who would like to consume your content with their different set of interests and likelihood of they generating new interest as they consume your content. So that's one data stream that you should be having. And the other data stream, which is the supply side of things, which is essentially your content. Again, content would be broken down into various set of buckets, but end of the day, all of that will come through a certain classification, which will further define the cohort or cross sections of that content, right? So the problem statement, and from a pure play consumption per se, or pure play matching the demand supply per se, would be how best you are able to create the right mesh between the demand side and the supply side, right? And if that mesh, so largely, broadly, if that mesh can be solved through a lot of data crunching and with additional machine learning and AI capabilities. So if you can create a lot more personalization, equivalent consumption patterns for your end users, while you're also able to curate and you're also able to structure your content better with a lot more data crunching added with a lot more complex algos, which ensures and sharpens your data cuts from the content side, and then you match both of them. So I think largely the problem statement around what we do with that kind of data and what is the end goal would resolve around that. Again, this is a very, very high level order from a defining of a problem per se, and then how do you solve for it. Now, each of these mesh that we talked about, which essentially would mean that you are creating a product and you are creating a digital interface of creating that experience for that particular mesh of content and a user base, right? So that's at a very broader and a more specific to what a digital core team would look at from a problem statement per se. Specifically, we use a lot of data tools on capturing data, both from clickstream data of users, also to break down from a consumption pattern per se, we do use a lot more micro nuanced clickstream data, and we use multiple tools for those. We use a lot of open source technologies. We use Google's lot of tools and technologies, commercial as well as open source. We also have our own built-in data streams and platforms which capture that data. We have a lot of big data and machine learning platforms in place to solve for those. So yeah, so we use a plethora of those tools. We use the end users from a business intelligence per se use enterprise tools like Tableau, Chartbeats, Google Analytics, and then on top of that, Databricks and internal team from an observability data per se uses a few other tools, etc. But so yeah, so I think we use a mix of good open source and commercial tools, both for capturing the right clickstream data and then further harnessing and structuring that through a lot of complex computations in place, and then the visualization bit with a lot of the tools that I talked about. So yeah, so I think all of these again, and then we keep evaluating and look forward for more tools who can provide further actionable data on top of that, while we equally are inquisitive about capturing more data points and ensuring both the quality of data is also extremely important while we do all of that. So quality and quantity, with the advent of stronger computational abilities in cloud and likewise, we are able to solve for a lot of computational challenges which were not possible earlier now. But while we are now scaling all of that up, we are also equally focused on ensuring the data quality that we capture is extremely high, and we are able to ensure the accuracy of that data remains sanctitized while we scale up our data, our overall data capabilities.
Wonderful, Shubhamji. I think one last question before I move on to again Sanjeevji is looking at the government promotion of the Indian applications like Koo, which is an alternative to Twitter, and the kind of very some of the ministers like Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, earlier minister, was very passionate about those apps. So what do you think would be a few strategies for a group like you to promote them and make people, particularly when we are all talking about the younger cohorts, how do we make them use those kind of apps more often? And how do you integrate mainstream media on those apps?
Sure. I think I'll restrain commenting on government backing any specific media channels as per se. I think the larger intent of government backing those media channels would be largely about ensuring the vernacular penetration and penetration of those internet news or likewise information across various different geographies within India reaches. I think that would have been the intent of government behind supporting a certain set of applications. But at a broader level, my thought there is that one, I think the more we have digital products penetrating various parts of the country, the better outreach of information that will provide. And if you have a better outreach, if the consumers are starting creating a channel where they're able to consume a certain set of app or a certain set of information, it also gives leeway to other similar content providers to use those channels or create a similar parallel user acquisition route to look through if they are able to reach the same set of audience or provide similar or differential content to that kind of user base. But I think largely at a broader level, I think it's only going to add volumetric users where the outreach is now expanding, and given the outreach is expanding, the overall internet base where your product can reach is also expanding. So it's a win-win for the overall industry. And I think specifically for the apps that you have talked about, yes, we do have a certain set of integrations that we do, so that in totality, from a brand proposition per se, we are able to have some kind of a syndication route or some kind of an integration route where we are able to reach out to the likewise users and vice versa. So as I said, one, it's great to have those kind of products reaching the larger vernacular market and the larger internet market, and then creating new set of niche user bases. And second, once you have got that created, we would like to ride on top of those new created categories on users and content.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shubhamji. Moving to Mr. Sanjeev Mulchandani. Sanjeevji, we started discussing about credibility, and you focused on credibility that brands earn from consumers in a country like India, where television is almost free and where there is a rise in unverified news. Now, how to trust a news when you understand, and you talked about in your presentation, you showed us those decks where, right from the helicopter money to getting Covaxin for children under 18 years of age are fake, and they are not factual. Because as a viewer now, if I look at the authenticity of the news, I'll only check some of these points, and maybe I'm wrong if it matches, which is the other way around, which I consider as truth. So what is your take? How do we make the mainstream media more credible, more trustworthy, sir? If you can show us some direction.
Actually, if you look at the mainstream media has been credible. If whatever fake news we've been talking about, it's all emanating either from Facebook or WhatsApp and things like that. Whereas I don't think so, barring one or two wrong reporting, which would have been erroneous reporting, not on purpose. There have been not news of fake news being done by mainstream media. Any bigger network I'm sure other right from we have people from Hindu network 18 Smriti will agree, and same is case with HT also. I don't think so we have any case of fake news which actually emanates from any bigger broadcasting group or print group. It's all the nuisance which has been created. It's only by the social media, and more than to be specific in social media, it's actually Twitter. Just to add to what Shubhamji just said, but the things like coup and all is going to challenge Twitter in terms of controlling certain, ecosystem. It can't be, so if you look at in China, they don't have Facebook, they don't have Twitter, they have their own versions of it. So that has been done purely to, curb the democracy. That's not the case. But having an substitute to Twitter like coup, or, I'm sure we'll be having something again, to compete with Facebook also. It's going to create a healthy environment, and I don't think so. Fake news actually exists in the mainstream media. It's all coming from the social media. That's the only challenge. The more we've been hearing a lot about, government trying to put certain restriction and all. Trust me, it's in a way for a good. And there are many countries which have, in fact, start wanting to protect mainstream, because see, mainstream media, if you look at especially television, I can speak from a television perspective. It's not a paid subscription model. It's all ad based and all. The more you are going to, the social media is actually taking a lot of feeds from the mainstream media without paying for that. Countries like Australia have actually gone ahead and passed a law that, if you want to pick up something from the mainstream media, the news and all, if it is posted on social, then they have to pay for it. And that law has been passed and they have agreed. So a lot of things are being done in a policy direction also to strengthen the independent journalism is what we call. And we are on way towards making this more stronger. And I'm sure we'll also be handling the nuisance of this fake news emanating from social, because people actually are coming back to mainstream only to cross check, whether it's right or not. That's what I was mentioning in the earlier slide also. So all they have to do is, this is the set of younger audience what we have who would be our potential viewers. Be it digital and all. We all have offerings of digital, right from, if example, Hindu or Hindustan Times, they are in print, they are also in the digital space. So all those, including News 18 or TV9, anything which comes from a mainstream network, be it digital or be it television or print, it's always going to be verified. In fact, I would suggest rather, most of your students should take up this. Reuters actually run an online journalism program. It's a very basic thing. Now, what you have to do is, I'm sure, Shubham, you must take more details from me, Shubham Bhatkar. I would pass on that. So that online journalism, it's more of a very basic thing of, how do you report news? How do you check what is fake and all? Because even if you have that ambition of becoming an independent on your own journalist, you need to still take care of certain guidelines and all. So Reuters as a larger organization have already started doing this online journalism program for budding journalists who can just do this basic. I think couple of weeks is all you need to spend, maybe an hour or so, and you will get to know which pictures to pick up, how to verify. There are actually apps, which will help you verify those footages are real or are they actually, manufactured. So there is enough being done by a lot of media houses. Reuters online journalism is something, which is being done. We spoke about Australia actually passing law to take care of, protecting the mainstream media. So there is a lot which is happening. I think people should not go by university of WhatsApp and Facebook. I mean, nothing against them. It's not the problem of the creator. It is the problem which has been created by, let's put it collectively, all of us. So if we have created that problem, the solution also lies within us.
Okay, thank you so much, Sanjeev. Just a very quick note from your side. This should not sound like an marketing communication for Amazon Fire Stick, but I think talking about this smart televisions and connected televisions and kind of telecast of old channels on this television, what do you foresee the future is lying ahead for us? What is your quick take on this?
So, Ranjanji, very interesting question. I think somewhere Smriti also touched upon that connected TV concept. I've been trying to research and read and understand how this entire connected TV is going to be. For starters, connected TV is nothing but whatever linear television you are actually consuming by way of cable and DTH and all. Everything is available, be it through Amazon Fire Stick or any other smart TV and all. So these are the basically cord cutters. These are the early adopters who have actually moved away from the cable and they are consuming same linear content on the smart TV via using internet and all. So that is going to be the biggest trend. It is growing like how. Talking about the headroom for growth which is left for television, currently we just have 21 crore households who own the television out of 30 crores. So the entire population of 138 crore, the households are actually 30 crores. And in that also, there is only 21 crores households who own TV. Now, these left 9 crore, which are yet to adapt to the TV, by the time they come, they would either look at cable or DTH. But what I foresee the way, the data pricing and all is being done by Jio and all, they may not even go for cable and all. They might get onto the connected TV, which is a much cheaper way of consuming content, and you have plethora of content available on connected TV also. So that's the trend ahead. TV will continue in one form of another or another. It could be by on a platform which is a cable, or it could be on a platform called DTH like your Tata Skies and all, or it could be on directly getting played on your smart TV or Amazon and things like that. So that is going to be the future of television in say another next 5 years.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev, and thanks to all panelists. So I think we end with a lot of optimism and hope that with the young cohort who was a focal point for our today's conclave, I think keeping up to date with a wide range of issues remains important for their identity, for their ability to connect, and for their chances of career and for the life progression. But their expectations of both the Gen Z and the young millennials are significantly different from the older groups. And mainstream media, the news feeds, they need to deliver value to them as individuals, not just for society. It needs to support their desire to progress in life as well as entertain and engage them. So thank you, Smriti ji. Thank you, Shubham ji. Thank you, Sanjeev ji. Thank you so much to all our distinguished, to Suresh ji, and to all our distinguished audience and panelists, and our honorable director, sir, our dean, students, affairs, our faculty colleagues, and of course, such a well-coordinated, I think, orchestrated conclave would not have been possible without the, I think, able assistance from our student coordinators. So I hand over to our student coordinators to conduct the rest of the proceedings. Thank you so much once again. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ranjan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, the panelists. And now I would ask Shubham Bharkar to go ahead and give the vote of thanks.
Thanks a lot. I hope I am audible properly. So firstly, on behalf of entire NITIE fraternity, I would like to thank all our distinguished panelists for today, Ms. Smriti, Mr. Suresh, Mr. Shubham, and Mr. Sanjeev, for such an engaging discussion about the key trends in their industry. The discussion covered deep insights about variety of subtopics like digital disruption and transformation, business convergence, digital marketing, independent journalism, all of which are some kind of buzzwords currently in their media industry. So the discussion really turned out to be very insightful and knowledgeable, thanks to the vast experience of our esteemed guest. We all were really privileged to have such a diverse set of panelists today. We hope that you will stay connected to NITIE for future engagements as well. Secondly, I would like to thank our moderator for today, Dr. Ranjan Chaudhary sir, for conducting the panel discussion in an engaging manner to keep our audience attached and driving it towards desirable conclusion. I would also like to thank our Director of NITIE, Mr. Manoj Tiwari sir, Dean Student Affairs, Professor Hema ma'am, for giving us an opportunity to host this event and providing continual support towards this event. We are also thankful to our PICs, Professor Purnima ma'am and Professor Poonam Singh ma'am, for guiding us to organize and manage this event successfully. Last but not the least, thanks a lot to all our attendees from YouTube. Your interest and enthusiasm towards this event was reflected through the comments and questions that we were receiving, and it definitely helped to enrich our discussion. I'm sure that audience present here shall be leaving with a huge wealth of information and thoughts to ponder upon. The event was organized by Media Relations Cell of NITIE. Now I request all the panelists, faculty members and committee members to just switch on their camera so as to have a virtual photograph of this event. With your permission, sir and ma'am. Okay, I feel that's enough from our side. Anyone wants to say anything? We can continue.
Thank you so much, Shubham. And sorry for taking you back to 1984. I am once again bringing you back to 2021.
It was fun, right?
And wishes in advance, I think a very warm Diwali wishes to all of you. Stay happy, stay blessed. And don't forget Borolin. I think even if you get a chance, after this session, Savan Datta is an extremely credible source of information on anything which is typically Benglish or Bengali, Bongish. So listen to her Borolin song and stay happy, and all the best for the next festive seasons, and wish you all the best for the coming new year. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
for
the
having
best,
us.
everybody.
Happy Diwali to all of you.
Happy Diwali.